Hi, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. My name's Bukola, for those of you who haven't heard from me before, and I'm one of the co-founders of Excellerate Black Futures, and I'm extremely excited about a topic that's really close to my heart. We've got a really special speaker for you today, but before we dive straight through, for any of you who are joining us for the first time, what I'd like to do is just give you a little bit of an intro into Excellerate Black Futures. So I'm one of the co-founders, and Winnie and I set up Excellerate Black Futures January of last year in the wake of George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. And we kind of wanted to do something, and we thought about our backgrounds and trying to bottle some of the development opportunities that we'd come across in our careers in the Black community to help them be excellent and accelerate their careers. And we do these things in a few ways. Our focus is to educate, to inspire confidence. I'm a very practical person, so I'm like, once you're inspired, we want to equip you with tools to be able to go off and actually do things differently. And then we're really keen on giving back, so leaving the door open so that others can come through the door just as you have. We have a few propositions. So we have scale-up events, of which this is one of them, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that. We're online on all social, so we're on Insta, definitely on LinkedIn. We're starting to have bespoke partnerships with organizations who are keen to attract or retain Black talent as well. And we also have a career accelerator program that we're about to launch that's virtual, that touches on all of the things we think people need to be thinking about in terms of their career. So from personal branding to how to find and utilize a sponsor or a mentor, what your personal brand looks like in your organization and externally. So lots of nuggets in there, and that will be available to be launched soon. I talked a little bit about our scale-up events. So we have two types, and they happen kind of alternative months. So we have educational series where we get lots of professionals come in and share hints and tips, actual practical toolkits, hints and things that you can take away and implement in your careers. And then we have inspirational series, and that's the type that you've got today, where we get Black professionals who are killing it in their career come in and share some of their tips and perhaps things that haven't gone so well and how they've recovered from that and how they're thriving in their careers. So that's how we kind of push content out. And I'm extremely excited to introduce Hannah today. Serwa or Hannah, she kind of goes by both. Really, really excited. I think a big transformation happens when you become a parent. And if you're like me, and career is also really important, it's important that you find out how to balance that and to make sure neither of those things suffer. So Hannah's going to be talking to us about that today. I won't go into detail as to her bio or her background, because that's part of what she will be covering with us today. So without further ado, because I know you're here to listen to her, I will hand over to Hannah.
I did a big thank you. Thanks everyone for joining. I'm really excited to be sharing with you guys today. I'm just going to share my screen so that I can have prompts as I'm guiding you through my content for today. So hopefully you can all see that. I'll put it on presentation mode. So yeah, thanks again for joining. I think today is all about, for me, it's about talking you through, how to nail your career and keep that balance at the same time. I think the original title, is nailing your career whilst being a parent. And I think that's so important. But at the same time, even that title was a bit strange to me, because I'm so much about balance that, even just calling out career and parenting felt like there's so much more, So today I will be touching on parenting, I will be touching on careers, but I'll also be talking about the holistic person and how you can really balance your career, your family, and everything else that you have going on. So hopefully that's all clear. I'd like to start with my journey so far. So this is, when I go into an interview room, this is typically how we talk about my career. And today I'm going to talk from being at university, which I happen to go to with Winnie, and studying economics at Manchester, all the way through to where I am now. So I was studying economics, and as you can see from the visual, it was really difficult. And I was, really lucky to graduate with a good degree. And one of the things that I did that kind of kept me in good stead was actually do a summer internship with BT. So when I did that, I was able to actually understand the corporate world, and it prepared me for the interviews in the assessment centre and what came next. So I think I had a really good foundation to start off with. When I was accepted onto the graduate scheme after being fast tracked after the summer internship, there was a lot for me to learn in terms of, how to dress, how to speak at meetings, how to provide value. So it was a bit daunting at first to be going through all of these different kind of schemes. Hold on. Talking about balance, my husband has just poked his head in the room to try and distract me. So now I need to lock it. One second. So as I said, the BT graduate scheme, really intense, because actually I was doing lots of different rotations and I had to try and understand the different parts of the organization. After the graduate scheme, I was actually promoted straight into a senior manager role. So I was promoted to a senior bid manager. So this was all whilst being at BT. And when I did that, again, I was managing teams where I had, people literally, 20 years older than me who I was managing in a matrix way in order to get bids done. So again, and you'll probably start to see the trend here, but, really big leaps. After I finished the senior bid manager role, also at BT, I was promoted again to a regional deployment manager. And this was my first stint in HR. So I was actually managing a transformation across 17 countries in Europe. So if you can imagine, I was flying to Germany one week, and then I was in France and Spain. And again, it was just giving me not only another leap because I'd never been in HR before, but also understanding different countries and the context and how to adapt myself. After I did that, I was working alongside consultants. So I think Deloitte was on that project, Accenture was on that project. And working with consultants, everyone makes them seem like they're so smart, they have all the answers. It made me realize that, it really wasn't that deep. It was something that I could do as well. So after BT, I went into management consulting, and that's when I went to KPMG. Again, working with really large clients like Tesco, Centrica, Rolls-Royce on their people transformations. So, really solidifying my HR transformation experience. And it was a really great opportunity where, in consulting, you're absolutely surrounded by, the best and brightest, and you're able to understand thought leadership and all of the issues that organizations are facing. After that, I went to HSBC, and I continued on that HR transformation journey, but my first stint again in finance. And it was a really great opportunity, which allowed me to make another leap into an associate director role at Fidelity, also focused on talent. So as you can see, when I describe that journey, and typically, that's how I might do it in an interview, but in interviews, I normally don't start from, uni. I probably start from where I am now and work myself back in terms of some of the experiences I gained. But if I was to give that to someone, they wouldn't say, oh, she's got kids and she does this and she's married, because it's all about personal branding. If I was to actually say the full thing, what you'd see is that there's a lot of life events that happened as I was going through that journey, and it wasn't as simple as I made it seem. But that's a big lesson to learn, because when I coach sometimes men and women, sometimes they overdo it on the personal details. Sometimes it's, and then I had a kid, and then I took a year out, and it was really difficult to get back in, and I got back in, I managed to make it work. And you're building a picture sometimes that you don't want, and it's really important for you to understand, what do I want these people to actually remember about me, and what's the value in what I'm saying. So if I'd actually given it to you with all of the colour, you would have seen that whilst all of this was happening in terms of, being promoted and taking on different opportunities in different sectors, there was a lot happening in the background that wasn't necessarily at the forefront. Because sometimes I feel when you're quite junior and you've got children, it can be seen as, she or he is not going to concentrate as much. They've got a young family. They won't be able to handle the pressure. They're not mobile. All of these assumptions can be made. So it's really important to know when to say things. So typically, people only know this about me until I've signed my contract. When I'm in and, my manager is asking about me and stuff, that's when the story comes out. That's when it really comes to life. That's when I start the conversations about, it'd be really nice to do compressed hours, or it'd be really nice to do this, because, I'm already in. I'm not, they're not using that as a factor to discredit me. So I'm not going to spend too long on this, but it's just a really interesting story, and it talks to the sacrifices that, you know, I had to make in order to get to where I am now. So when I started at BT, I actually, you know, midway through that, met my now husband, Prince, in the gym. So he was a personal trainer and, you know, we're training together, etc., etc. We end up getting married, right? So that was a whole highlight in itself, because, you know, African parents, you can imagine, you know, didn't bring home an investment banker or, you know, anyone with a sensible profession. You know, I brought home a personal trainer. So that was a conversation in itself, but very stressful as I was going through my graduate scheme. Anyway, so we then get married, and we had, you know, it was great, you know, being young, married, moving away from, you know, my hometown, being in a completely different environment, trying to figure that out. So then, you know, found out that I was pregnant a couple of years later with Ariana. Now, when I got pregnant, that was around the time when I was actually doing all that traveling. So when I mentioned, you know, that I was, you know, flying to Germany, flying to, all of that was whilst pregnant. And funnily enough, instead of just having a baby, it was at the point at which I also and brought my sister to come and live with us. I say I brought her, but that's not what happened. My parents decided to move back to Ghana. They abandoned us after raising us here. They decided to move back to Ghana, and I thought it would be better for her to, you know, finish her education here. So my sister came to live with us. And not only did I have a newborn, I also had a teenager at the same time. So all of this was happening as I was working through my work stuff. But again, I kept it quite separate, and that was a personal choice. I know that some people, for whatever reason, may need to disclose it maybe earlier than I did, or bring the organizations in. But I think it's really important to know your personal brand and understand how you want people to perceive you with every decision that you make. Literally on Ariana's first birthday, I found out that I was pregnant, and a couple months later discovered it was twins. So I was then automatically going to 4 kids as opposed to 2. And what ended up happening was, and I'm sure a lot of, if your parents on here, you'll know that childcare can be extremely ridiculous. And the way that it was working out, because Ariana was only 1.5 when they were born, it was going to cost me at least £3,000 to put them into nursery. So I packed all of us up and we went to Ghana, and we stayed there for the whole maternity leave until I could figure out what I was going to do. And the solution, so as you can see in that bottom kind of left picture, this is all of us in Ghana. So it was a really fun time, because actually in Ghana I had the help that I needed. I had the nannies. I had 2 nannies, one looking after each twin. You know, I had a chef, I had a driver. I was really living life. But then when they were 1, I decided to come back and actually come back with Ariana and bring my younger sister, who'd moved to Ghana with my parents, back with me. So then, as you can see, I ended up with Ariana and 2 teenagers, and the twins were still in Ghana. And I say this because it's really important. Sometimes you can see people and you don't know the sacrifices they've had to make, or the hard decisions, or, you know, what they've had to go through to get where they are. So just want to be really honest with the fact that for me to be an associate director now in a global talent team in an organization like Fidelity, I personally don't believe it would have happened without some of these not little, but these key choices and decisions that I made. But the time went really fast, and as soon as they turned 3 and their 3 hours at nursery kicked in, they were right back. So I ended up with 5 kids. Now Gifty, who when she came to live with us was, I don't know, 14, and she's now 21, finished uni. They both got the highest grades in their A levels, their BTEC. Gifty went to Nottingham University. Becky, who's my younger sister, she got all 9s in her GCSEs, which, if you guys don't know, is like the equivalent of A*, and now hoping to get into Oxford or Cambridge. So, you know, it was a sacrifice, but it paid off, because actually I had to make it pay off. You don't make big decisions like that and don't see it through to the end. So now we're in a place where we can actually spend time as a family, you know, go on family holidays, etc. And I've got the picture of me at the end, just because throughout all of this, I was becoming, like, I was figuring out who I was, what my values are, what I want to do with my life, and really solidifying that vision. So that's enough about me, but I just wanted you to have that context. But today, what we really want to talk about is balance. And balance is basically defined as having things in correct proportions. And when you think about work-life balance specifically, it's about the time and the focus. Like, where are you putting your time and your focus? So what I want to do now is to do a quick poll to find out where you think you are prioritizing your time. So can we get the poll up, please?
Have we still got Winnie on?
Hi, yes, the poll should be up. I think we're getting some responses.
Yeah, they're
through.
coming.
Oh, right. Okay. Sorry, I wasn't sure.
That's okay. Okay, we'll just give it a couple more seconds just as we get more responses through.
Awesome.
I'm just checking, Hannah, that you can see the poll on your screen.
I can, yeah.
Brilliant.
It's looking really good.
Brilliant.
A lot of people on this call are focusing on work, which is interesting. No one on relationships. Scary.
Would you like me to close that now? Oh, actually, we've got a couple more in.
Yes, some are coming in. Okay, I think there's about 12 people on the call and about 6 have answered. I don't know, some people may be on phones and not seeing the poll correctly, etc. So that's probably fine. Awesome. That is really interesting. So what we're seeing here is a lot of people are prioritizing work, and some are prioritizing self-care. So I'm just going to talk through the work-life triangle and see kind of where people want to be after I've talked about the 3 different points. So let me close that. So I'm not sure if anyone has seen the work-life triangle before, but normally work is right at the top of that pyramid, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's whoever's writing these articles and drawing these diagrams trying to get us to focus on work, but I put self-care at the top because I think it's something that sometimes really gets deprioritized. So for me, self-care is reading, is listening to a podcast, it's spending, going out to brunch with my friends. It's that kind of thing. For me, that's self-care, but I'm really conscious that self-care looks different for everyone. It doesn't even need to be things where you're by yourself. It's just about doing things that make you feel happier, to be honest, make you feel lighter, something, things that make you feel like you are looking after yourself. So I know some people like to play sport. It might be football, it could be rugby, it could be netball or golf, whatever that is. Some people like to light candles. I've never really understood candles. I literally don't get it. But it's one of those things where it's very personal to you. So I think self-care is critical, because without it, you're not able to give the right energy to the other things that matter. The next one is relationships. And I think with relationships, people can straight away think their partner in terms of, is it my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my spouse, etc. But it's, family, it's kids, it's friends, it's just all of those people who make life worthwhile. I think there's, a quote that, I don't know if it's a quote actually, but I think there's studies that show that a lot of time people who are dying, sometimes their biggest regret is not only not going for certain opportunities, but also not spending enough times with the people that they love and the people who love them. So relationships is another really critical part to kind of get that balance right. And then work. A lot of people, when they think about work, they're only thinking about 9 to 5, or they're thinking about their businesses or their side hustles. But work is also housework. It's also laundry. It's also cooking. It's also cleaning. It's anything that's a chore, anything that's a task that is taking away your time. So I think work is a lot broader than just that 9 to 5. It's all of it. And when I talk about the work-life triangle, it's really hard to talk about it without mentioning things that can actually make some of these areas bigger or smaller. It's gender. So for example, a lot of and I'm generalizing, so forgive me, but a lot of women feel like they need to be taking care of a lot of the housework. And I think this also goes to culture as well, right? It can be a situation where, because of what gender you are or what culture you're from, that everything is actually really heightened. Even for men, sometimes for them to say, oh, I need to leave early to pick up the kids, it's like, oh, can't your partner do that? or to, take some extended paternity leave or family leave, whatever it is, it becomes an issue. So I feel like the gender and the culture aspects are things that we need to watch out for, because regardless of the culture expectations, you need to make sure that you're doing what's right for you. So for me, for example, every couple of at least like once a year, my mom will come and help us out, give us a little break since she abandoned us. And when she comes, she'll always say things like, so why can't you be a real woman? Like, can't you clean your house? Can't you cook? Can't you serve your husband? Like all of these things. And that's her expectation of what a wife should be. Not, she doesn't know that, Prince behind closed doors has been like, look, you just go make that money and I'll sort out the rest. So, all of that type of stuff. Or maybe, it could be a man and his mom has come and it's like, oh, when his mom is around, he, doesn't help with the cooking or doesn't help with the cleaning because it's not what his mom would expect him to do. So I think sometimes there's lots of gender and cultural kind of factors which are affecting the way that we behave. Things like trying to be a martyr by trying to do everything yourself. There's some people who absolutely, put their kids first. I remember I had a friend who at one point was, ironing her husband's boxes, like she was ironing absolutely. And some people love ironing and I get that, but sometimes you're trying to work the 9 to 5, do the side hustle, have a business, and you're also ironing boxes. Like it's impossible to get that balance right if you're not smart and if you don't prioritize. So I think there's a lot that we need to do to unpick things. And also we need to understand that the balance wouldn't always be balanced all the time. There might be some areas where you need to focus more on work, or actually you've been focused on work for the past year or so and your relationships are absolutely going down the drain. Like your kids don't have anything nice to say about you, your husband or your wife resents you because you're spending too much time at work, or you're mentally drained because you're not doing enough activities in the self-care bucket. You're not feeding yourself so that you can then go and actually help others. So I think now that I've talked a bit about those three, if we could release the next poll just to say, where do you want to spend your time in the next couple of months? Which of these areas do you want to give more attention to? Okay, it's changing quite a lot.
It's great to see relationships going up now.
Yeah, there was
last time.
Yeah, there was none on relationships. I wonder if it's the new people who joined. Oh my goodness.
Just let me know if you'd like to close it.
Yeah, I think let's give it 10 more seconds and let's close it.
Fab.
That's really interesting. So I think we can see now that relationships have gone up and self-care has also gone up. And I think that's great, because a lot of the time we just do, especially if you're a high performer and you like to get good results at work, that's where all your focus goes. And what ends up happening is you just deprioritize the things which actually matter, because sometimes by putting more into self-care, your outputs at work actually get much better. For me, I've started building into my routine. Every day when I wake up, I read first and foremost and kind of get my head in the right space with gratitude, with praying, like just thanking God I'm actually alive, all of that. And then as soon as I get out of bed, it's straight to exercise, whether I'm going to the gym or I'm going downstairs to do like a 15-minute video. I exercise every single day. And that's just so that I can be in a space of not trying to fit it in somewhere else after kind of I'm tired and drained and I've done all these meetings at work, I'm Zoom fatigued. Trying to fit in exercise doesn't make sense. Now, everyone might have different routines, but really try and figure out the spaces where you can put self-care. And there's a lot of people who will say, oh, I've got young kids, I can't think about myself for a couple of years, but it's absolute nonsense. Like I did it with basically triplets. I managed to look after myself every single week. There was some aspect of self-care because I knew that if I'm not doing well for myself, I can't be the best for them. And then I see that relationships has also gone up. I'm really happy about that, because actually it's something that's so underrated. A lot of people, once they get past the working age, they start to realize that they don't even know their spouse anymore because they spend all of their time either working or looking after the kids and not actually looking after each other and cherishing that relationship. So for me, and I'll probably go into detail on this later, you know, every single Friday night is date night. Every single Friday, you know, we have weekly date nights, and it doesn't have to be going to an expensive restaurant, which I do like to do. You know, it can be free. It can be going for a walk. It can be just watching a movie together. It can be anything. You know, you can get creative with it. I know some people have started to make businesses of date night ideas and stuff like that, but it's not that deep. You can just Google something. But it's so important to have that dedicated time out where you work on your relationship. You really can't. Do you know what I mean? This is to married people here. I'm not trying to, you know, promote fornication, but, you know, you can't have a marriage and, you know, you haven't slept with your husband like in a whole week. Like, it's mad to me that people can put work and kids and everything else above like such an important relationship. So I really feel like what I would like you to do with this information is understand that when your relationships are off, your work is off, who you are is off. So it's really important that you're prioritizing the right things. Don't kind of work yourself to the bone for the next 20 years, look back and realize that you actually have no one to share that success with. It's so much more fulfilling to be, you know, just enjoying as you're going along. Like for this year, I said to myself, I'm not going to let the year pass without doing a holiday by myself or with my friends, a holiday with the whole family, and a holiday with my husband, just me and him, because it's important that as we're working and as we're trying to nail everything, that we're also enjoying the process. So I hope that's all clear. Let me move on. So now I want to talk a bit about the barriers to balance, why sometimes we kind of just block ourselves off from finding that perfect balance. I think the first one is probably time. A lot of us are not careful with our time. We do things which kind of eat in to time that could be spent on valuable things. So you'll be sitting there with no control, just like going video after video on TikTok or on Reels. You'll be sitting down watching Netflix for hours when you know you've got a proposal to do, or you know that you need to work on your side hustle or whatever it is. But I think time management, and I'm going to go into what I do for time management a bit later, is so key to be able to find that balance. Because if you're doing a lot of things, so for me, I've got my 9-to-5 job, I've got my coaching, I've got my HR consulting business. I'm a co-founder of HR Growth Network. It's a community of HR professionals. God, what else do I do? I also have a gym with my husband. He manages most of that, to be fair, but you know, I help him with the strategic thinking, etc. And then I also have like my 3 kids who are doing piano, doing tennis, doing ice skating, doing coding at the moment, learning how to what's that thing called when you're typing without looking, typewriting, I don't know what it is. So all of that is happening and I'm able to fit it all in. My kids are still top of their class. They're still going for their piano exams and stuff like that. And I'm doing well at my job because I've been able to factor in, you know, at 5 o'clock, that's time for piano practice. At 6 o'clock, we're all reading as a family. We're learning our times table. All of that is happening. So it's about really thinking about what's important to you and how to make the time work so that you can get all of that done. I think another thing is guilt. Sometimes we have so much guilt over, oh, if I don't do this, I'm not a good mom, or if I don't do this, I'm not a good wife, that it can distract us from other things that we need to do. It's not about guilt, it's about what you can do without killing yourself. You really cannot come and kill yourself for anyone or anything. It's just the right amount of time has to be allocated to each thing. And in order for you to know what the right amount of time is, you need to get your priorities right. I'll talk a bit about that in a minute as well. Also, there's a lack of support. And this can be your fault or it can be the people around you, but let's talk about it from both angles. I think when it comes to support, it's something that sometimes you need to ask for. Sometimes it'll be, you know, I hear people say a lot, you know, he should know that I need help or she should know that I need help. And people are actually not mind readers. Like, you need to be able to say what you need. If you've said it and, you know, the people around you aren't responding to that, that's different. That is not your fault. But if you're sitting there thinking, I I'm going to expect people to help me when they can see that I'm struggling. You're going to sit there and struggle for the rest of your life, and it will be your fault because you never said anything. And when, you know, all is said and done and you start arguing and be like, yeah, but did you ask me to help you? And it's as simple as that. Sometimes we just need to open our mouth and speak. Or if you don't have the right people around you, you may need to pay for it. And sometimes people don't want to sacrifice. It's like, oh, why should I pay a cleaner when I can clean myself? But are you cleaning? And are you cleaning well? And could someone else do that? Could you not delegate that task? So again, it's something that you need to start thinking about. Are you not being supported because you haven't asked? You're not willing to pay for it? What is that barrier that's in your way of actually getting the support that you need? There's also failure to set limits, boundaries, not saying no. In a while, I'll talk about how to say no. There's also people pleasing. You want everyone to think you're the best, you're their best friend, etc. That's going to also be a barrier. And there's also comparison. You're always looking at what someone else has. You're always looking at what someone else is doing. If you're constantly doing that and then pushing yourself too much in a certain area, it's not going to lead to the balance that you want. Now, I'm going to go into the consequences of work-life imbalance. Now, if you get the balance wrong, there's severe, you know, consequences. I've seen people go into mental health breakdowns because they're unwilling to kind of let something go. Sometimes you need to know your limits and what you can handle. Not everyone. And I think sometimes social media will make you think that you can, you know, do everything. You can have a business, you can have a 9-to-5, you can have multiple side hustles, and you can whatever. But the truth of the matter is, some people have it and some people don't. And you really shouldn't push yourself too far. I talk a lot about coming out of your comfort zone, but it gets to a point where you really need to see what can I do and where do I need help. It's not everything that you're going to be able to take on. Burnout is extremely real. And sometimes I think, especially in the Black community, we don't spot the signs early enough because we're always trying to be the best, because if we're not the best, then we can't get ahead, etc. And I've actually learned that I don't need to be the best at absolutely everything. I surround myself with people who are good at what they do, and that helps me to shine. And actually, I focus on the 20% that matters. I've seen people who do, you know, the same job as me, like work so hard at the 80% of things that nobody cares about. Actually, I know that my manager cares that I hit this target, that I'm well networked, that, you know, I say what I'm going to do. So actually, maybe those are the only 3 things that I focus on instead of trying to do absolutely everything to a perfect level. Also, if you get it wrong, I've talked about relationship breakdown, and also it can lead to underperformance. Sometimes you can do so much that you end up not doing the right things and you're actually labeled as an underperformer. So as you can see, like, the consequences of this is real. You need to be able to, I keep saying it, you need to be able to achieve the right balance. And these are the 7 steps that I wanted to talk through today. So the first one, and apologies if I'm talking too fast, I'm just trying to get it all in, there's a lot of content. So the first one is having a clear vision of what balance means for you. Everyone's idea of balance is not going to be the same. There isn't a magic pill. There isn't one way to do it. I've tried to find so many books on getting this balance thing right, and they're all saying different things because it's different. You need to understand the different areas of your life that you're trying to achieve. And so for me, for this year, when I was setting out my goals, I didn't just have random goals. I'm looking at it now. I've got a vision board above me, and I've got, you know, goals. I've got 3 goals for my business. I've got 3 goals for my family, 3 goals spiritually, 3 goals for my own, like, personal self-care kind of goals. And then I've got 3 goals for work. So I've kind of got that full circle of these are the things that matter to me, 3 for each. And I'm thinking about how I can kind of push myself in all of these areas. And I've got really clear targets as well of what I'm trying to do in each one. So without a clear vision, you can sometimes just be going back and forth, trying to figure out, okay, am I doing well here? Am I doing well here? But when you have a clear vision, everything kind of starts into place because you know exactly where you're trying to get to. So like I said about the holidays, for example, if my vision had just been, I want to go on holiday, what does that mean? You know, if I go on holiday with just my family, is that it? But that wasn't what I wanted. I wanted to be really specific around the kind of holidays, like, how do I want to live? Like, I work so hard, I don't want to have that poverty mindset. So I want to really push myself in terms of, like, having fun and doing what I can whilst I'm still here. The second one is about managing your time effectively. And I wanted to talk to you guys about how I do this. So I use this matrix, and it's called Eisenhower matrix or something. I just call it the urgent and important matrix. And what it does is it sets out, you know, in these 4 different quadrants, things which are not important but urgent, important, urgent, important, not urgent, not important, not urgent. And some people will put different labels for each boxes, but I'll just talk you through how I see them. So for me, the most important box is the important and not urgent. And the reason why I say it's the most important, so this one over here, is because it's not urgent, sometimes it can just keep slipping down the list, but actually it's important. So things like strategic planning, things like goal setting, things like networking, it's almost like if I have time, I'll do it because I know it's important. But actually, with everything that's in this box, it's really important that it's scheduled. Because actually, if you don't schedule it, what ends up happening is that it just keeps dropping further and further down the list. Things like reading and listening to podcasts are absolutely essential for me because I'm in a knowledge-based role, which means that the more that I know and the more that I give, the more value I'm adding and the easier it is for me to get promoted. So when I'm doing presentations at work, I can literally just be reading from the screen exactly what I've said, or I can be like, oh, in this book that I read, this person said this, or I listened to the podcast this morning and this happened. And it straight away makes me sound, even if I'm not, like a high performer, like someone who's going above and beyond to contribute to the organization and to the project that I'm working on. I also exercise. And the reason I exercise is because I don't want to be fat. I exercise because I made a decision really, really early on. I think probably when I was 18, I made a decision that I wanted my body to be nice. I wanted to have a family. I wanted to have a business. I wanted to have a 9-to-5 because I wanted that stable income. I made these decisions a long time ago. And so it's important to me to exercise. And if I don't schedule it, it will never happen because I'm too busy. So like I said, every single morning, I'm doing at least 15 minutes of a YouTube video or I'm going to the gym. And then piano practice with Ari. Again, if all I'm doing is working, I will have no time. So again, I have to schedule it in. So every single day my alarm goes off. I know that it's time for me to sit down because my daughter is someone who, if you don't sit with her, she will not she will just do a bit of it and be like, I did it. And so in order for it to be done properly, I need to be there. Date night, like I said, is also scheduled. It's every Friday. And some people in the school might know this, like if there's plans and it's on a Friday, unless I can come with friends, I'm not coming because it's date night. And I've missed out on opportunities for it. I've missed out on work for it, unless it's like big money and, you know, I get my permission slip and we reschedule. But it's, you know, a really important thing that I don't miss and is scheduled. And then also, you know, this book that I've been trying to write for the past 10 years, I also put time into research it. So that is the scheduled. Then in terms of the important and urgent, that's stuff that I do straight away. So if I know that something needs to be done today, or a senior leader just emailed me, or someone's called me, or I need to attend a doctor's appointment, there's no point scheduling it. That's something that you just need to do. Then in the not important and urgent, it's things that you could delegate. That's typically what goes in this bucket. So if it's like a phone call or an email, like, so for phone calls, it's hard to delegate unless you have an assistant. But for emails, for example, sometimes I get emails and I'm like, I'm not the only one who can respond to this. So I can forward it to someone in my team and say, can you draft a response for this? They send it to me, I copy and paste it and send it on, instead of me taking time out of what I'm doing to write this email that somebody else could write. And then when it comes to cooking and cleaning, it depends on you. Like if that's something that you enjoy doing, that's absolutely fine. But there are also things that could be outsourced. So think about, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it if it's taken away time from other things. So for me, I would rather go on my date night. I'd rather piano practice with Ari, do times table with the boys than clean. So I can pay someone else to do that cleaning for me. So it's little things like that. And then in the not important, not urgent, where I've got things like social media, watching TV, TikTok dances. A lot of people who talk about this matrix will say that you shouldn't do the things in this box, but I put it as entertainment, because to have a truly balanced life, you need to have some time with dead time. It's not every single minute of the day that needs to be absolutely planned to a T. It's okay to you know, go on social media here and then and flick and see what's happening in the world. It's okay to watch Love Island. Like, I hardly ever miss it. And, you know, TikTok dances as well. Like, even on my social media feed, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that I'm unable to even just make my Insta account just about business. Like, there's so many, I literally radiate balance in every sense of the word in everything that I do. Even on my Instagram, I've got like a third of it dedicated to like career tips and business and all that type of thing. I've got another one of it which is like myself, like it would just be a picture of me by myself, and then the other third is dedicated to me and people. So you'll see my kids, or you see my family, or you see my friends. So even that has an element of balance in it, and I know it can put some people off because they'll be like, someone has recommended me as a career coach and they'll see me doing some random TikTok on my Insta, but that's who I am and it's part of my brand. And I feel like with that authenticity, it's almost like, well, she's being herself, what can you say? And even when people have, you know, free consultation calls with me about their coaching and telling me what they want to do, etc., I'm so honest, because it's like, if I don't feel like I can help you, or I don't have the time to help you, I'd rather tell you straight away than for you to waste your money with me. And that is something that has really helped my business, because people are like, I can trust what she says. There's some people who will jump on a call with me and say, at the moment I'm earning 30k, you know, I'm doing an admin job, I really want to be on 60k. You know, and I'm like, okay, what skills do you have to get there? You know, and these are some of the hard conversations that other people don't want to have. And sorry, I know I'm going off track a bit, but just talking about balance, it's impossible to have the right balance without authenticity. Like, you need to really believe in what you're saying, and you need to know who you are and what your values are and what you stand for. Now, going, you know, from 30k to 60k without building up any experience or any key skills or any qualifications, it's not going to happen. But there are people out there who will say, pay me £1,000 and I'll be able to get you to this, and they will not deliver because it's impossible. So it's some of those things that you need to face up to yourself. Maybe you don't have anyone in your circle who can be honest with you, but at least be honest with yourself with what you can do with your time and how you want to spend your time. I've seen you've come off camera. Is it because I'm running out of time?
You've got a couple of minutes.
Okay, also let me continue. So in terms of some of the steps, I'll go to the point 3, build a strong support system. It's really important for you to have some key people around you who will have your back as you're trying to build this balance. For me, my support system is definitely my husband. He split the pick up and drop offs with me. You know, when I have no energy to cook, he's cooking. If I haven't outsourced it, you know, someone who's there in your corner, people like my mum, my sisters, you know, friends and family. So important to build a strong support system in order to get the balance right. Also, set your boundaries, really know how you want to operate. And the 5th one, learn to say no. So important. I think recently I've really picked up the skill of actually saying no without even given a reason. It's like, no, like, can you come to this? No, sorry, I won't be able to make it. As simple as that. Before, I'd be like, oh, you know, Prince said I can't come, you know, or, you know, make up some kind of excuse about why I don't want to be there. But actually, if you don't have the time to do something, it's much better to be honest and say no than to say yes and then try to backtrack and make an excuse last minute. Also, don't assume. I think I've talked about this already. Ask for help. And my last one is just prioritize ruthlessly. Like, you have to be able to prioritize. You have to understand what's most important at that moment in time. It's not that work will always be first or family will always be first. It's got to be what makes sense in this moment. You know, I'm on this call. I said I was going to do this call, and therefore, even if my daughter's at the door, like I'm ignoring it, because actually this is what I've said I'm going to do. And I think it's really important for us to be able to be flexible and really think about what makes sense at that time. Top tips for career success. I'll try and cover this in 2 minutes because B is staring at me. But, you know, the top tips, and, you know, if you want any more information on this, I do offer coaching on all of these topics. But I think it's all about the foundation. if you want to be successful in your career, whether you're a parent or whether you've got like a side hustle or a business or whatever it is, you need to get the foundation right. You need to be a top performer. You need to understand what is considered a top performer, because sometimes you can have an idea in your head of, if I do this, I'll be seen as a top performer, but actually your manager and your manager's manager might be thinking something completely different. Also, it's important for you to get feedback from a range of people so that you can actually understand how you're being perceived. Once you've got that foundation level right, the next level is about networking, making sure you're getting yourself out there, you're meeting new people. There's people who are putting, saying your name in rooms that you're not even in, giving you business, giving you access to new opportunities. Find a coach or a peer mentor or someone who you can bounce off, who can actually get to know you and ask you those deep questions that maybe you don't want to ask yourself. And then once you've got all of that, then it's time for visibility. If you're bad at your job and you're just everywhere talking, like it's pointless. You really need to make sure that you've got the basics right before you go for visibility. And when you get there, make sure you've got a really strong personal brand. And personal brand isn't anything too complicated. It's just, how do you want people to see you? What do you want to be known for? What do you want to be remembered for? And I think the way that I talk to my clients about it is, say the 3 words that you want to be associated with. And if you have close people around you and you ask them, how would you describe me in 3 words? And they're not saying the words that you want to be associated with, then it means that you need to change what you're doing because your personal brand isn't working. And this is my very last slide. It's just about what you need to start, stop, and continue. So I feel like in terms of starting, make sure you've got goals, not just generally, but for every area of your life. And I know a lot of people will say work smart, or they'll say work hard, but to be fair, I think in order to really make it, you need to do both. You need to be able to work smart, but you also need to be able to work hard in order to really see the success that you want. Also, you need to stop staying in your comfort zone and putting self-limiting beliefs on yourself. A lot of the time we just stay in what feels comfortable instead of really pushing ourselves and seeing what we can do if we apply ourselves. And the last bit is, invest in yourself. I can tell by you even coming on this call that you care about, learning more about personal development and stuff like that. So continue doing that. And time management is not something that you get right straight away. You need to continue doing it. You need to keep finessing it until it works for you. And that's it. This is where you can find me. Sorry, it was rushed, but I didn't realize I had so much to say. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Hannah. I did say as soon as you got started that you would kind of get into a flow. So thank you so much. I feel like there were so many nuggets in there. We've had a couple of questions come through. I'll ask mine really quickly and selfishly before I take any of the ones that come through on the chat. There's lots of nuggets in there, and it does sound like you take a lot of time to strategize and plan, and you've got goals. Mm-hmm. How natural was that, or did you go through like a burnout phase and then you went, right, okay, I can't work like this, I need to have a bit of a plan for my life? Or were you just a natural planner and that's kind of how you've always been?
It's a really good question. I don't think I'm a natural planner, but I have always been someone who has set really stretching goals for myself and has always had quite a clear vision of where I want to get to and what I want my life to be like. So, for example, many of you will know that I got married quite young, and I actually did that on purpose. Like, I got married young on purpose so that actually it's out of the way and I could just focus. I could just focus on my career. I could focus on my kids. I could focus because and I do this a lot, I learned from other people's experiences. Like as I was growing up, I'd seen people who were like, oh, I need to try and find a husband, I need to try and do this, after they focused on their career for so long. And I just felt like there was a lot more that they could have done if they weren't concentrating on that. So I think I've always been quite specific about what I wanted, but I haven't necessarily been the greatest planner. So what that's meant is I've gone through periods of, let me focus on this, and then I might burn out, and then I have to re-strategize. And that's why I said time management isn't I've done it, I've cracked it, because it's changing all the time. So there's been times when, like, Prince has literally had to drive me to a hotel and leave me there because I can't be in the house because my head is just going like this because I'm doing too many things, I've taken too much on. So as I'm talking, it's from experience of knowing that you can't come and kill yourself for a lot of the things that you're doing. You have to be able to constantly revise and be agile in your thinking. I know we talk about agile at work, but be agile with your life as well. You don't have to stick to things all the time. So
Great. No, that's really useful. And you talked about, you know, when you shared the slide of this is me and this is what I'd say at interview, and then here are the other bits that they kind of find out once I've signed on the dotted line. How long would you advise someone before they started to have those conversations with their managers or their team, especially if you wanted to ask for compressed hours or I want to do 4 days, blah, blah, blah. How long would you advise post them walking through the door?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's hard. So I'm gonna say it depends, because I think it depends at the level at which you go in at, and also your track record. I think if for me, for example, for this role, I went in as an associate director, so it's quite senior, and so I felt like I had the flexibility in my own diary to manage my own time, where I didn't really need to have any deep conversations. It was just, you know, as it came up, if it came up, I would be like, oh yeah, I have kids, because I didn't really need permission for the drop-offs or the pickups or anything like that. But if you're in a role where actually your time is carefully monitored, or you're in the office a lot and actually you do need special things, like you need to work a 4-day week or something like that, then I would say have those conversations kind of as early as possible after you've signed, to be honest. I don't think you need to start, but I think if it's a case of you don't need anything too fixed, and it's just, you know, it's a nice conversation to have, then I would say build up a bit of a track record, be seen as someone who's doing things, so that when you mention that you have kids or you've got other commitments, it's like, oh, how are you managing everything? You know, it changes the conversation, as opposed to you saying it straight away, and for everything that you slip or you mess up, it's like, oh, you know, the kids are probably, you know. So I think it's you really have to use wisdom when it comes to disclosing things about yourself.
Okay. And we've had a question come through around, and this is one that was brewing in my mind, so I'm glad someone has asked the question. Any advice on finding the balance between you and your spouse if both are ambitious and both think family and obviously relationship is important? How do you navigate that? And I know there's all sorts of cultural aspects to kind of think about as well. You know, when you talk about outsourcing, there's something my mother never outsourced. So how do you manage that quite tense as it can be conversation with your spouse to try and kind of fit that little graph that you came, who schedules, who does what?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And to be very honest with you, like, I'm talking about it now, like it's so perfect, but it took a long time to get here. It took a lot of unconditioning, you know, like you said, it's that, oh, a woman should be doing this, a man should be doing that, and all of that. And actually it took a while for us to get to where we are now. I'm not going to lie and say it's easy, but I think what helped us to get there is communicating, and actually not accepting things just because that's the way they are, like really pushing back in a respectful way, in both parties, because there's sometimes I'm like, I'm not doing it, and you know, it's a lot of conversations that need to be had. And I think sometimes people don't want to lean into that. They're very, well, this is what he said, that's it, you know,
it's very uncomfortable though,
you
right?
know, let me go complain to my friends and get upset. But yeah, it's a conversation, you just need to have it.
Yeah. And I guess, has there, and this is me being nosy, so apologies, I am quite nosy. Have you ever had a standstill where you're like, this is how I think we should do this, and your husband's like, no, actually, this is how I think we should do this? And then how do you compromise on that? Where do you go from that? Is there like a formula? Do you guys go, right, I conceded last time, so it's your turn? How does that work?
I'm having a coughing fit. One second.
Take a sip.
I don't know if I'll recover from it.
Take your time.
Yeah, I will. 1 second. Always at the worst moments. All right, I hope you guys can hear me okay, because my voice is very crackly now. But I think, have we ever hit a standstill? We have, many times. And I think, like I said, it was the communication, but also sometimes getting someone externally to also help. And so it helps if there's a level of accountability that you have outside of yourselves. If you don't have that, then I think it's just a case of I don't know, it's really hard because I think because I'm a qualified coach, I'm really good at the asking questions and, you know, getting to the bottom of like, you know, why are you feeling this way? Like, how can we turn it around? But I think if you're not, it is a challenge to be able to do that, but you've just got to keep trying, because if you don't, and if you don't realize that actually the reason, I think it's if as a couple you are thinking about yourselves, it can go on for much longer than necessary. But if someone sensible says, what are we trying to do together? Like, where are we trying to get to? Like, what's the vision? What are we trying to achieve? I think when people are able to get it onto it from that level, from a, it's us, it's not me and it's not you, then the conversations start to take a much better turn, because now we're not concentrating on what's best for me. It's like, if we do it this way, it's best for us. So I think that's where people need to get to, and it's really difficult. So it's not, I don't want to underestimate it, but it's definitely possible if you're in the right mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess what's really key is kind of upfront discussing what those goals are. So I think sometimes what happens is no one actually shares where they're trying to get to, right? So no one says, I want to be a X in 5 years' time. And so the husband's wondering, why are you working so hard? It's like, because there's a, you know, like, don't you get where I'm trying to go? And then that causes issues because neither party is aware of the direction that person's going. Okay, absolutely. That's a good answer. One other question is around, and this is very true, there's often more of an expectation for the woman to give up more in terms of compromise, give up more in terms of what's classified as work in that triangle that you talked about. And again, also very flexed on culture. How do you deal with this on your own? Because I get that there's communication with your husband, but I think sometimes these things are internal, because your husband might be fine, not fussed about is dinner hot on the table, but then you've got mum guilt and you've got wife guilt because some auntie is saying to you, is this how you leave your house? You know, how do you manage that?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. I think the expectation on women, especially people from African backgrounds, or Caribbean or even Indian to an extent, is a lot. And I think there's a lot of unpicking that you need to do even with yourself. And I think the reason why it's been like that traditionally is because before, women were earning less. Now I know,
or weren't even working, right?
Or weren't even working. So it was a completely different thing. And I think sometimes, and that's, to be fair, the main argument that I used in everything is very, very simple. I'm making too much money to be doing this job. So it's one of those ones where I think it's easier if you're earning a lot, but I think it's harder if you're not earning as much and you know you also feel like you shouldn't be doing the chores. I think it's a harder argument. But I think in all of it you need to understand why are you doing what you're doing, and just be really clear with what the vision is for you. I think when you're not clear with your vision, it's easy for you to be tossed back and front, but when you've got a clear vision of where you're trying to get to, people will normally get it and kind of come with you on that journey. So I think as a woman, yes, there is pressure, and to be fair, there's some women who absolutely love cooking and cleaning and it's not a problem. You're fine with it. And I think if that's how you feel, you should absolutely continue. You shouldn't feel like because of this new social media age and everyone trying to be an independent woman that you need to join the bandwagon. If you genuinely enjoy it, please keep going. However, if it's something that you don't enjoy as much, then make sure that you are saying it out loud and you're not trying to be a martyr and carry everything because it's the expectation.
Absolutely. Amazing. Now everyone's asking, the last slide you put up with your social media handles, do you mind just sharing that again, just so people can take note? We will try and include that, but everyone, this is going to be recorded and put up on YouTube, so please don't feel like you need to remember every single thing. But she's put her slide up again. So on Insta, Serwa.Smith. She's also got a website, very simple, www.serwasmith.com, and then Hannah Smith on LinkedIn.
It'll be impossible for you to find the LinkedIn there.
It's been great though. Thank you so much, Hannah. I think I've got 3 kids, so this was very timely. And I picked up so many nuggets. So I know it's been really useful. Thank you for the time. Thank you to the team. We always say we've imprisoned some of our friends to support us on this journey of Excellerate. So thank you to every single one of you, KG, Hannah, Elle. Winnie's on there as well. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for taking an hour out this evening. And hopefully we'll see you again next month. Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you.
Have a great
Bye.
evening.